Back in just a minute. Hey everyone, sorry for the delay. I hope you weren't all confused. We just had a couple technical difficulties. So hi everyone. Hi Brian Cross, Kathleen. Thank you for joining us. That's wonderful. And I know there are more of you out there as well. And I'm pretty sure you all can hear me. All right, so welcome to the Historical Society of Frankfurt's final lecture of the season. This is our June lecture, or Papers Read. We're reading a newly published Papers Read by our board member and member, Fred Prescott, tonight. It is entitled Swimmin, Frankfurt Swimmer. He is a longtime Frankfurt resident and is recounting his days of swimming in the 1940s and 50s. So a little reminiscent of the lecture that we read last June called Swimmin Holes I Know, which took a look at swimming during the summertime in swimmin' holes, but more natural ones than I think Fred is going to discuss tonight. So this being the last lecture of the season, I'm just gonna read a couple of announcements, update you on some things. Here we go. So we're hoping to host in-person lectures in the fall, in September. Our new season of lectures will start up in September. We'll go September, October, November, December, so 4. And if possible, we're gonna live stream them as well so that all of you can participate. It might not be a live stream, or it could possibly be you'll be able to watch them online afterwards. But either way, we still intend to have our online presence and hope that you'll join us in either fashion and contribute your wonderful comments going forward in whatever capacity. Another announcement we have is the restoration of the Civil War drum, the Cowden drum that was used by William Cowden. It is near completion thanks to the generous grant from the local chapter of Questers and also Questers of, I'm guessing, the rest of the Questers in the nation. They put in a bit as well. We are putting together a presentation that will feature the restoration, the story of the 114th Regiment Band, and the Cowdens. So stay tuned for that coming up in the fall. We hopefully will have, we're working on the lineup already, so I think fall is going to be a good treat. So please join us then as well. That's all I have for announcements at the moment. If there are more at the end, I will definitely fill you in. Until then, I'm going to add Fred here and introduce him. You've seen him before.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Fred. How you doing?
Okay, should we get started?
We should get started. I'll leave it to you.
Okay, I'm Popeye the Sailor Man. I live in a spinach can. I like to go swimming with them nice mermaid women and float on my back to get tan. Heard that little ditty while I was in elementary school, or at least something close to it. I don't know if it came from an actual Popeye cartoon or if some would-be poet made it up. It's just one of those nonsensical things that sticks in your head that never seems to go away. Now, I debated with myself whether or not to do it, but this past year has been so solid with the pandemic and all things connected to it, it just seems that it's time to be a little silly. Now, the verse is slightly and loosely connected to tonight's presentation, which I call Frankfurt Swimmer. That might not be very historical, more like a slice of life. And it's at a time that I was growing up here in Frankfurt, and I think and hope that it may stir some memories to those of you listening in. Do you remember, several months ago when Vanessa presented, a program entitled Swimmin' Holes I Know? A story about places you could swim in and around, Frankfurt when he was a kid around the turn of the century. It got me thinking about my own time growing up here and where you could swim in our neighborhood. I was kind of a water baby from the beginning, and my first swimming pool was a galvanized tub. I used to get in trouble for filling the bathtub up to almost overflowing, just so I could be in deep water. And believe it or not, we still have the galvanized tub my wife used when she was a little girl. Now, the era I'm going to talk about is from the 1940s until January 1961, when I left Frankfurt after enlisting the Air Force. Except for leave time, I would not return home until January 65, and there are a whole lot more changes in the Northeast that I hadn't expected. I want to talk a little bit about free-flowing water. Now, by the time I was born in 1941, old free-flowing swimming holes in Frankfurt that I may have heard about were long gone, either dried up, rerouted, or buried by the city. My grandfather told me that he was a kid, he tended cows in the westernmost section of Whitehall Commons. He told me that Dippin Street was a creek. I suspect it was a branch of the Little Tacony Creek, which flowed at the edge of the commons. Now, hardly a place to swim, I knew of 2 animal watering stations where fresh water flowed 24 hours a day. Wissanoming Park had a spring and a pond. The Frankfurt Creek was still there, but by now it was so polluted by illegal dumping of chemicals, you never gave it a thought about taking a dip in it. As kids, we heard stories about how you could die or be turned into some kind of monster, like those old ones you've seen in the B science fiction movies, if you took a dip in a creek. I would later take that challenge. There was a swimming hole in Juniata in the same creek, but I dunked there only once. It was kind of out of my territory. So the main thing in Frankfurt for the kids was the bathrooms. Now, with all the old swimming holes now gone, the only pools for water were made of concrete. The city of Philadelphia built bathhouses across the city in various neighborhoods, 2 of which were in Frankfurt. Everyone I knew called them the Bathy. One of them was the Head Street Bathy, located on the west side of Head Street, just north of Orthodox Street. As far as I know, it was known as the Hedgie by all who used it. Excuse me again. At the corner of Hedge and Orthodox was Mascufo's Meat Market, and the entrance to the Bathy was just behind the end of that building on Hedge Street. Sadly, the Hedge Street Bathy was finally destroyed by some local spoilers when they badly vandalized the pool in the building. The city closed it down forever. Do we have a picture of the map of the, oh, there it is. Okay, there you can see, oh, you won't be able to see it. There you can see with that blue circle. That's from a 1920 map. That is the Hay Street Bathhouse. And we have a photograph of the Hedgie. Do we? Okay. We're live.
You're muted.
Sorry, I don't have an image of that in my collection here. Do you have one that you can hold up?
Go ahead, hold this up.
Okay, this is the inside of the Head Street Bathy, and it looks like it's Boys' Day. All right. The other bathhouse in Frankfurt was the Whitehall Bathy inside Whitehall Park. Now, Whitehall was where my friends and I all went to swim up into the late 50s, though not as often as we got older. Now, on the corner of Wakeling and Worth Street and inside Whitehall Park's iron fence was what we all call Whitehall Bathy. There was a yellowish brick wall all around the pool, which I believe was about 8 feet high, maybe a little higher. The front entrance faced Wakeland Street with an iron fenced-in area where there were benches to sit on while you waited for the doors of the pool to open. Inside the main entrance was a series of lockers to put your clothes and towels in, and showers to wet you down. You had to shower or you couldn't get into the pool. Boys and girls swam for 1 hour periods, but you were only actually in the water for about 45 minutes. Kids swam on alternate days during the week. Girls were Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Boys were Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. There were some swimming classes in the morning. After the swim period ended, the lifeguards made you exit from a different door on the Worst Street side so you could not mix in with the kids trying to come in for the next period. Well, we quickly would run around the corner and would throw our wet bathing suits underneath cars to help dry them out. It really didn't work that well. Evenings were reserved for adults, and some Saturdays were declared family day. Some days were soap days, and you actually had to soap yourself down, then wash off to enter. The big chlorine tank was at the shallow end, which was the 40-foot end, then sloped down to the 9-foot end at the deep end. There were always at least 2 lifeguards on duty, sometimes more. I make note that the wall did not stop adventurous teens from climbing it at night to do a little skinny dipping. And my name's on that list. Now, this is not swimming, but I just want to tell you this about Whitehall bathing. At the end of the season, some of the lifeguards and the senior staff that spent time at the playground would get together and do a musical presentation at the end of the season. Now, I remember them doing an American in Paris one year, but my favorite, I think, was South Pacific. They were really pretty good for a bunch of amateurs. Now, there was a third bit. Eventually, that wall was demolished and replaced by a chain link fence. Then later, the whole pool was destroyed. The third bathy, not in Frankfurt, but in the near area, was the one on State Road near the base of the Tacony Bridge. I was only there once and cannot remember if the locals had a special name for it. We just call it the Tacony Bathy. Can you see this? I can't. Can you do it? Yeah. As my neighborhood buddies grew old enough to drive, we found a spot to take a dip in where the Proquessing Creek dumps into the Delaware River. We would also picnic, boat, and swim in the Chamonix Creek Park in Humeville. I think I skipped a thought here. Aha! The Delaware River in our area was known to be a dangerous place to swim. As a teenager, an acquaintance of mine drowned while swimming near the Wissinoming Yacht Club. As I was growing up, I would find myself swimming in the upper Delaware River on many occasions while attending Treasure Island Scout Reservation. Now, an early and dangerous encounter with the river happened around 1951 while I was still in elementary school. 2 of my friends and myself hopped on our bikes one Saturday morning and rode over the Tacony Palmyra Bridge to hunt for the snakes in the trash dump near the base of the bridge. The hunt was unsuccessful, and we sat on the bank of the river in the summer heat. We thought it would be neat if we could build a raft and float down a river, Huck Finn style. Well, we couldn't find any materials to make a decent raft, so for some reason we decided that lily pads float. If we could get a bunch of lily pads together, we could make a raft and float on it. Well, it worked. We tied them together and made a raft big enough for the three of us. It actually worked pretty well. But very shortly, the river current started to pull us out towards the deep and dangerous middle of the river. We panicked, really panicked, and abandoned our rafts and swam to the shore. Adventure over. Okay, now other pools that we may have used when we were young. If you attended Harding Junior High School, as I did, in 9th grade you could join the swim club, and I did. Now, Harding is in the middle of Whitehall Commons, and on the east side is Whitehall Bathing. And you would think it's fairly obviously that that's where the swim club would be. Oh, no. The swim club was at the Germantown line, which I believe, if I'm not spent such a long time, was at 11th and Lehigh Avenue. So using public transportation right after school, you were home by dinner time. I would swim in this pool again when I took a life-saving course run there by the Red Cross. As teens and able to drive, we would sometimes go to the Boulevard Pools at Roosevelt Boulevard and Tyson Avenue. At the time it was built, Boulevard Pool was the largest pool in the world. There were 3 pools on the property. A baby wading pool, the big pool for swimming, and a springboard diving pool. The usual picnic and sunbathing areas were also available, and some people called it the seashore of the north. And in the wintertime, they had ice skating on the big pool. So let's try and take a look. I can't, which one is that?
Boulevard Pool.
Yeah, that's, oh, there's the one with all the kids in it.
There she got it.
Okay, maybe we can see the pool itself. That's obviously the big pool there that you can see, and that's the main building on the left-hand side.
Aerial view.
All right.
There.
Okay, now there's the pool itself. You can see in front of the main building, that's the big pool. And then close to the right-hand side in the corner is the diving area, and just above that is the baby pool. Now that white area to the side is the picnic area, and you could go and lay out a blanket, and you could either buy food there or bring some with you. Now one more picture of the Boulevard Pool.
Some swimmers. Yeah.
All right. I don't know, maybe these girls are still out there, but I'm guessing that's around the 1950s, going by the style of the bathing suit. But again, you can see the pool in the background and the main building, and that's Boulevard Pool. It was big and a lot of people attended there. All right, moving on. Now, sometimes you would venture up the highway pool, going up Roosevelt Boulevard and then out Old Lincoln Highway to Treebo's. This pool was pretty large and had a very high sliding board and a high diving tower, which we really liked. All right, no more concrete. There was no cedar water swimming holes in our area. Just about all my friends learned to swim in cedar water by visiting some of the small lakes in New Jersey. Just over the bridge and south on Route 73, in a short distance, were several. I think around Voorhees was the twin lakes that sat adjacent to each other, one of which was Lions Lake, and I can't remember the name of the other one. Further down Route 73 was Sunshine Lake. Olympia Lake was on Route 130, and there were many others. Swimming in Cedar Water Lakes was really great, but you learned never to wear a white bathing suit in it. Okay, a teen hotspot just over the Tacony Bridge, a short distance down Route 73, was Spring Lake. It was constructed on the old Russell W. Ward sand quarry. And even though it was in New Jersey, on any given weekend, you could find more teenagers from Philly than there were from Jersey. All my friends went there. Now, if you were lucky, your parents might send you to camp, where swimming was almost always available. We probably all went to the seashore, or might be lucky enough to go to the Poconos and swim in Lake Wallenpaupack. Now, I have a finishing story, but before I do that, I want to make a plea. The first thing I'd like to ask you is if you have pictures of either Head Street Bathy or Whitehall Bathy, send them to us. We try as hard as we could. We have only one picture, and that's the one in the Whitehall Bathy. We haven't yet been able to find, the one in the Head Street Bathy. We have yet to find anything on Whitehall. So we're looking for those pictures. The second thing is, if you got some free time and have nothing to do once in a while, consider coming over to the Historical Society and volunteering your services. Now, you don't have to be a historian. We've got plenty of tasks to do that, where you don't need to have a vast knowledge of history. We just need help. And the third thing is, we kind of lose what happened in Frankfurt at the end of the 1930s. So I'm asking those of you out there who would be willing to do it, to sit down and write us your memories of Frankfurt in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. I have a free ring binder here. It's called Our Memories of Frankfurt. And we're not looking, you don't have to be a professional writer, just send us your stories. If you can't do it electronically and you wouldn't mind writing it down with pen and pencil, pen and paper, send it to us, we'll transpose it. And if you come and visit us, take a look through that book. The other one we'd really like to fill up is the Families of Frankfurt. We know a lot of prominent people who lived here way back when, in the early days of the neighborhood, but we don't know who lived here in that time period. So tell us who you are. Send us your family. Okay, now, as I mentioned earlier, I had a trial with the Frankfurt Creek. Now, as I mentioned earlier, no one I knew of would swim in the creek because of the pollution. However, myself and about 5 of my friends were about to take that dare. We all like to swim and jump or dive off the highest spot we could find. And I found out from a friend of mine from Bridesburg that there was a fairly high railroad bridge that spanned Frankfurt Creek just off of Headley Street, near where the creek dumped into the Delaware. We took a ride down and walked over to the railroad bridge. The current was fairly fast. The water was dark and kind of foreboding. And we kind of asked ourselves, hey, is this a good idea or not? But the temptation of being able to dive off that bridge was more than we could stand. So, knucklehead that I am, I went first. Now, I didn't dive at first. I found a place to get in the water and feel around. It was fairly deep, 8-10 feet maybe. You couldn't see a thing. It was really dark, but I didn't find any obstructions. So we all went out, and of course, since I had been in the water already, I was the one that had to go first. And I dove head first right into the murky, black Frankford Creek. Pretty soon, all of my buddies were doing it, and we had a fairly good time for about an hour. Needless to say, we got out and quickly went home and took a shower. So that's my story for tonight. I hope I poked somebody's memories, and please don't be afraid to send us your thoughts and your memories about Frankfurt, when you lived here, and if you still live here. We appreciate it. Good night, everybody.
Thank you, Fred. That was wonderful.
And it was silly to start.
It was, no, I feel like it was perfectly fitting to continue that tradition of swimming that we started last June, and I loved it. I loved your story of the lily pads. That was, I'm amazed that worked.
It did work, but we thought we were really cool.
Oh, I'm sure. I think you're really cool.
We thought we were like Huckleberry Finn.
I think you're like Huckleberry Finn. I would never trust lily pads to do that.
If you get enough of them and band them together, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, they're not the little ones. They would have been.
Right. Yeah, of course.
It really did get scary when the current started to take us out. And I didn't find out until later that actually on the Pennsylvania side by the Frankford Creek, there's a huge whirlpool that came in. And it's down in there. And one of the reasons I know that is I was at Treasure Island in 1955, and a friend of mine was in another scout troop up on the island when the flood hit. And the kids that were there lost everything. So I think it was about that September, and my buddy Johnny got a call and asked to identify himself, and he said, yeah, and they said, well, we're at Frankfurt Arsenal, and we have your footlocker. Well, here, the footlocker had floated all the way down the river and was trapped in this eddy. And it kept floating around, and I guess a couple of people there saw it and wondered what it was, and fished it. So everything was through it. But at least he got his footlocker back.
There you go. That's an awesome story. You should include that in the rest of your Papers Read. We're definitely gonna commit this to the series of Papers Read that we have. And like you were saying earlier, it is really important that we continue to capture not just the super ancient history, but the history of the not so distant past, which, I mean, not so distant, the 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. We do really need to catch up on that and add that to our museum and our collection. So I wholeheartedly agree with you there, and I double down on your plea for people to send us your memories and get in touch so that we can record that history with any material, even if it's verbal, or if you have pictures, that's even more wonderful too. But we want to keep track of it for sure.
Yeah, I mean, there's simple things like, did you buy your records at Bond Music or Bond Radio or Patch Music? Did you shop at Vanity Fair? Was that it? Or Saks?
Yeah.
What was the name of the men's hat store? How many movie houses did you go to?
Right.
There's
You
all those kinds of things that make up history.
Yeah.
You
Yeah, and
can't
we're
have
missing a
history-
lot of
You
it.
can't have history without the people and their lives. So that's what I'm looking for.
It's true.
It's really not that hard if you sit down and do it.
It's not hard at all. It's as simple as coming and having a conversation, and then the ideas just start flowing, and we can jot it down or find a way to record something that will speak to other people, and that's absolutely the way to do it. And I know, Fred, your lecture tonight definitely spoke to me, because even myself, I have memories of, running around in Frankfurt Creek, not so young. I didn't get into that when I was a real youngster, but in my 20s, I would, run around and get my feet into Frankfurt Creek at least, even though it was a little scary. But yeah, I wouldn't go swimming per se, but I definitely had some experience with the water. I think my friend washed her socks in part of, well, maybe that was the Tacony Creek at that point, but anyways, so there's more memories to be had and more to record. So definitely get in touch with us, and hopefully we'll be back open in person in the fall, and that will mean in-person visits as well. So not just lectures. That means we can be open for appointment visits if you want to take a look at the museum, or if you have any thoughts concerning the collection, or want to see any of it, get in touch. So our website, we're at www.thehistoricalsocietyofFrankfurt.org, and you'll find all the info there. And of course, if you have us streaming here on YouTube and Facebook, you'll have the contacts there as well. And I think that's it for tonight. Do we have any other announcements? Fred, do you know of anything? No, I think that's it. We're just hopeful that everyone has a really great and safe summer, and that everything continues to improve around us. And we're oh so happy that all of you have joined us in our live streaming. It's always fun.
I promise not to sing for those silly songs.
Yes. No, you put on a good one tonight, Fred. Thank you so much.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.